Welcome back to another project with James. You know, there is something so cool about making a project that your kids get so excited about. This SeeSaw was meant to be a surprise for my 4-year-old son. He happened to come out into the shop and catch me making it halfway through, and he about freaked out. He was so excited. This one was really fun to make. Here's how you do it. This is the majority of the material you're going to use today. These are just 2x6s. Let's start by making the base of the SeeSaw first. And in order to do that, we're just going to cut some pieces out of these 2x6s. These are the sizes you need to cut for the base. There's a couple of them that are 36 inches long, and then there's a few of them that are 24 inches long. And these ones that are going to go on the end have a little angle to them. It doesn't really matter what angle you cut this at because the angle really doesn't have a function other than making it look better. Just make sure you cut them all at the same angle so it looks nice and symmetrical. Now there's multiple ways you can cut this. You can use whatever method you're comfortable with. I'm going to use a miter saw because it's really fast and the cuts are perfectly straight. Arrange those pieces you just cut into this shape. It's pretty self-explanatory where the pieces go, so I won't get into that. But there is a couple of things you need to know. First, you need to make sure you're centered on these pieces. So these two here are centered here. These two here are centered here. And of course, these two here are centered on this piece. Now, really important thing you need to know is the distance between these two pieces here, and that is 4.5 inches. The best way to do this is to take 3 scrap pieces of 2x6 and fit them right in between, and that will be exactly 4.5 inches. After you've lined everything up where it needs to be, now we're going to screw it together. We're going to use 3-inch screws to screw these things together. Now this is a typical 3-inch outdoor screw. That's perfect, you can use that. I happen to have some of these heavy-duty headlock screws, so I'm going to go ahead and use them. You're going to go around and put 3 screws in each of the connections. We need a hole in the side to connect the actual SeeSaw to the base. I'm going to do 2 of them. The top one's going to be a little bit higher for the bigger kids. The lower one's going to be a little lower for the smaller kids. And you'll be able to move this around just by taking the bolt in and out and moving it up and down. I chose to measure down 2 3/4 inches from the top, and then I centered it on the side, which happens to be 2 3/4 inches there too. And then I also chose to come down 6 inches from the top, and that's where we'll put our second hole. We're going to drill the hole with a 3/4 inch wood drill bit. Take 2 pieces of scrap that you have left over of the 2x6s, and we're going to cut them 17.5 inches long. These are going to be used as the handle holders in the middle. We're going to use this miter saw and we're going to clip these corners at a 45-degree angle. We're going to come in from the corner 1.5 inches and just clip it like that. We're only going to do that on one end of the wood. The other end will keep straight. We're going to use a wooden dowel to go through this piece here to act as the handle. So whatever size of dowel you have, that's the size of hole we need to drill right here. Mine happens to be 1.25 inches, so I'm going to drill 1.25 inch hole right there. And I just measured down 2 inches from the top, and then I centered it from side to side. And then just make sure your dowel will fit through there. Now do that same thing to the other piece. Take the 2 straightest 2x6s that you have. This is going to act as the main body of the SeeSaw. Now I'm using 10 foot. You can use 8 foot if you'd rather go a little bit shorter. I don't know if I'd go any longer than 10 foot, but if you want to, you can shorten it a little bit. Now stand those up just like this right next to each other. Then you're gonna take the piece that you just cut, that you just drilled the hole for the dowel, and you're gonna slide it right down in between the two. The distance from the end to here is 12 inches. Measure on both sides, both pieces, to make sure you get them exactly even. Now we're going to clamp these together and screw it in. You don't want to come in at the same place on both sides because then the screws will meet and you'll probably split your wood. So do it diagonally on this side and diagonally on the other side. So I took a piece of plywood and I cut it 7 inches by 16 inches, and then I clipped the corners back here, and we're just going to screw that down just like that. We're going to just use some wood screws. These happen to be 1.25 inch outdoor wood screws. I've cut the wooden dowel into a 10-inch piece, and now we're just going to stick it right through and center it. Now we're just going to use one of these 3-inch screws. We're going to screw it right into it, right through the edge right there. I've got a piece of foam here, and I just cut it a little bit wider than the seat. And then I also have a piece of this outdoorsy, canvasy type fabric. And these are just scrap pieces that I've had. So what I'm going to do is wrap this down underneath and staple it underneath so the kids have a nice cushiony seat. When you're done doing this exact same thing to both ends of the SeeSaw, then we'll be ready to put it all together. You'll notice that I put a block of wood right in the very center of the SeeSaw. I did that just to keep things more stable over the long term and keep the wood from warping. The last thing we have to do before we put this all together is drill a hole right through the very center of the SeeSaw. When you're drilling this hole, you must keep it very level and straight so that it lines up on the other side with the other holes that we've drilled. Now it's a simple matter of lifting it up, lining up the holes, and sticking the bolt through. This bolt happens to be a 5/8 inch bolt. So the last thing we're going to do before we let people start playing on this is I'm going to put some water seal on it. I've got some tinted water seal here. It's going to change the color just a little bit, but mostly I just want it to be good for the elements outside, and then we'll be ready to go. I decided last minute to put these corner bumpers on here. They're really meant to be used on countertops or tables, but they work perfectly in this situation. That's it, we're done. Making this just shows that a project does not have to take a long time to just be awesome. If you're experienced working with wood, this will probably take you about an hour. If you're a newbie, I would guess up to 3 hours. You guys are awesome. Thank you for watching. I'm anxious to get this outside, let my kids play on it. So I will see you later on the next project with James.